Hey y'all, Ren of Taurus Rising, back with you here again for our weekly Wellness with Tarot. And we are continuing our Fool's Journey series, going through all of the major arcana cards of the Fool's Journey. Just a reminder that what that means is the Fool's Journey is sort of going through the major arcana cards, and how each card in that journey represents sort of these universal experiences that we all have to some degree in our lives. And today we are arriving at the dreaded death card. Just kidding, not dreaded. I think this card historically has had some fear kind of come around it because of, well, it's a death card. And death obviously is, I think, something that is a heavy topic in general. It's part of life. It's part of the human condition, but it's also a very kind of heavy thing because it comes with a lot of, it comes with grief, loss, those kinds of things. Death, this card, I mean, it can represent actual death, but this is more about capital D death, right? The transition of one thing from one thing to something else. Not all deaths are like, a physical death. That's part of life, like constant transition, change, transformation, shedding things that no longer serve. Lacy Phillips of To Be Magnetic talks about how 2025 has been the year of stripping. And let me tell you, I myself have had some major additions and subtractions, right? Some deaths, we can say, not actual deaths, but some endings of things. I'll just kind of name some things. Sometimes it's like identity, right? Sometimes you have been this one thing, but you're deciding, I'm not this anymore. Or maybe you move, right? And so you've decided, I don't want to live in this place anymore. There's a number of reasons why you move locations. And so that kind of life as you knew it, living in that location, is no longer. It's now you're moving on to a different phase. There's this concept in Buddhism called, it's impermanence, that everything is impermanent, right? Even the year, it's 2025. It won't be 2025 anymore. It'll be 2026. It'll be, maybe similar to 2025, but different. But it's, you could never have, November 19th, 2025 again, per se. That is an essentially like a small death. So really this card is about impermanence, transformation, things changing. Just think, even things like high school, you don't want to be in high school forever, you graduate. But that high school career, a sense, has died because you have moved on. You can't be in high school forever, so those kinds of things. So this card isn't about so much physical death. It's the capital D death, that things end and then other things begin and then those things end too. So it's a cycle. So that's what this card is about. The Fool, as the Fool goes on its journey, the Fool learns that things end. Things don't last forever, even a day, even a season, a year, friendships, even friendships that stay, they deepen. Or like, let's say someone dates, but then they take their relationship to a serious level. Even you might say that's a death because you kind of progressed from one phase to another, but now you're in this phase and that phase is no more. So there you go. There's just so many ways that this card can show up around the endings of things, the lack of permanence that comes with just the human condition. All right. And as we have been doing, what we are doing is asking the tarot, okay, where do we need the energy of this card, or what does this card have to teach us about our lives now, or what area of our lives? This is from the Radiant Rider Waite deck, the Death card. I like to use that deck because it has that traditional kind of imagery that I think is universal, that I like to draw from. And then I'm using the Ethereal Visions deck for the actual reading. Right. where do we need the Death card, energy, Death card, wisdom in our lives? And I'm feeling drawn towards this card. Oh, interesting. We've got the Queen of Cups reversed. We'll kind of go into, not just the reverse meanings, but all of the meanings that could happen in the Queen of Cups. Hopefully you can see that okay. The color palette is kind of pastel. It's quite a lovely card, I think. When I think of the Queen of Cups, well, let's just turn it upright to take a better look at it. We've got a figure here, a cup, of course, because it is the Queen of Cups. Lots of sea life imagery, seahorses, a shell. She's holding a cup. When I see this card, I often think of very much like a therapist, like sort of that kind of gentle kind of energy, watery, flexible emotions, sort of an ethereal card. I think of sort of the personality of like a therapist or just someone who's very kind of flowy, very Piscean, I guess you could say. Sort of just this sort of flowy, free spirit. That's what I really get when I see this card. Just like in touch with emotions, and in touch with feeling, intuition, the things that you can't really see, which sort of, I definitely think about Pisces or just water signs in general with this card. And Pisces is really a lot about like what you can't see. I once heard Pisces described as everywhere and nowhere. It's just like the ocean. It's so deep, so you can't really see what's going on there, but there's so much going on there, or even the subconscious, you could say. And we got it reversed. So I kind of think, when there's a reverse, there's like some sort of block or resistance, or could almost be like an imbalance. That's what I'm getting. It's almost like living too much in the emotions, living too much in the unseen, which can be, ungrounding. It doesn't really keep you on track for just doing, getting down to business. Sometimes you have to put your feelings in a box like that. Obviously you don't want to suppress your feelings as your baseline, but sometimes there are situations where you have to put your feelings in a box and do the task at hand, because that's just life. Like sometimes you get bad news or you're just not feeling great, but there's shit still has to get done, right? So almost what I'm getting from this card is like living too much in the feelings, letting them take control. So that being said, where do we need the Death card in our lives? Okay, so this to me is about kind of emotion regulation. Sorry, I don't know, you hear my little doggy over there dreaming. What's coming to mind is emotion regulation, kind of right-sizing your emotions. Your emotions are real. If you're feeling some sort of emotional response and reaction to something, that's real, and not letting it drive the bus too much. And sometimes, if this is a habit of letting one's emotions kind of drive the bus, that could almost become like an identity. Like, okay, well, it's just how I am. I'm just an emotional person. So kind of getting clear about what your relationship is to your feelings. Are they driving the bus, or are they can you integrate them? So there's just this need to have a transformation when it comes to that, like taking responsibility. When I see this card too, it's almost like there's a Grim Reaper kind of figure, almost like a messenger type, right, on the horse. But the Grim Reaper type is in control. It's kind of is guiding the direction of things. So it's like you're needing to have a direction with your feelings, not letting them take you out. Can you transmute that? Can you channel those feelings and not let them totally take you out, and not that let be your identity or your destiny. Sometimes it can be easier to let your feelings take the wheel and that be your fate, right? Oh, well, I'm emotional. Oh, I'll do it when I feel like it. Part of emotion regulation is doing things that you don't want to do simply because you have to do them, or because ultimately it will serve you to do the thing, like pay the bills even though you don't feel like doing it, going to work even though you don't feel like doing it. So the death card is asking, for transformation and taking responsibility for emotions. That's what I'm really getting from this card. Finding some sort of integration and taking accountability and responsibility for the direction that your feelings take in your life. Hopefully that resonates. This may not resonate for all. This is a collective reading, not a individual reading. And then what I'm going to do is do that thing where I put the cards together and then pull the card on the bottom to see what we've got. So stand by while I gather the cards. All right. Oh, almost fell out. Okay. Bottom card. We've got the Nine of Pentacles. I love this card. I feel like I draw this card a lot for myself. When I see this card, I often think of an independent woman. There's a woman, like traditionally, female figure in this card, which I resonate because I identify as such. But to be more generic, we'll just say it's a figure who's like independent and perhaps secure. It's the Nine of Pentacles. Pentacles are about the material plane, money, kind of earth signs like Taurus. And when I see this card, I always think of being a fully self-supporting individual, like tending and nurturing your crops. This figure kind of appears to be like high status, I guess, or maybe at least middle class, because maybe well-dressed, content, seems to be kind of, to me, I kind of pick this like regulated, calm. There's a home in the background. So I kind of get an abundant sort of that this person is financially okay, secure, in the material plane. Whenever I see this card, to me personally, it's a reminder of the goal of being fully self-supporting. And that doesn't mean just financially, but emotionally as well. Like getting my own needs met, not seeking rescuing, not seeking support, being empowered to take care of myself. It doesn't mean to isolate or like, no, I don't need anyone, but it's where it's important to be fully self-supporting. Can you do that? And so kind of in the context of what we've been talking about, this card, to me, it's about emotional regulation. And since it's reversed, sort of having an imbalance with emotions, letting the emotions take the wheel, or, not like letting them drive the bus. And there's a need for transformation with that, a need for change, a need for the ending of that pattern to be overly emotional to where it's not serving you. Perhaps you're getting into a dysregulated state where it's hard for you to make rational decisions, because we need to have our logic brain online as well as we need our emotional brain. And so sort of the answer is, okay, being fully self-supporting, can you resource? In therapy land, we talk about resourcing within, breathing, regulating, knowing that you are safe, you can meet your needs, that you are safe in this moment. So when you're dysregulated, when the emotions are driving the bus, there's a need for that transformation and transmuting that, and just looking at that relationship to your emotional world, perhaps even getting outside support, learning that you can be self-supporting, that you don't have to like live like that where you're totally dysregulated, and living by your emotions, like letting your emotions control you versus you regulating them. So that's what I'm getting from this this card. It's about emotion regulation, resourcing, knowing that you're okay, finding ways to resource, to ground. Perhaps that's even seeking outside support, therapy, or even other, medical support. Knowing that you have everything within you to be fully self-supporting emotionally. All right, that is our weekly wellness reading for the week, using the major arcana cards in the Fool's Journey to kind of learn from each card and what it can offer us in our lives. Stay tuned for next week's session. As I'd mentioned, I'm not doing in-person sessions, and that's not where I'm putting my energy or my direction right now. It's more about content. So feel free to reach out if you are interested in like a virtual reading. I'm open to that. Otherwise, you can find me just for content creation on YouTube here, Instagram, and then also my Substack, which I will link in the notes below. I will see y'all next week for our weekly Wellness with Tarot.